did you?
Access to information.
Access. Okay, inventory, access to information, excellent. So, and I actually, hey, I'm old enough that I remember when all that stuff was carried around the book. And you had to go find the guy or woman who had the book, and then you could move forward. But those days are gone. And to help, to understand this, some of the research breaks down the role of the realtor or the role of any mediator into two large areas. One is the matching process. So it's actually the search. It's trying to find product and buyers or sellers and buyers on a resale basis and match them together. The second part is bargaining. So that's the subcategories are contracting, so actually helping somebody to do a deal. Second is monitoring, closing the deal, and adaptation. So changes happen. People have an inspection, they find something, or hey, that's not what I thought it was, or your very smart brother-in-law comes along and says, well, you shouldn't go along with that. All these kind of problems come along, and you need an expert who can help put that together. And in general, when you look historically, any industry where their value proposition was on the matching side, they got crushed with the internet. The internet just said, you know what? Technology can do a better job at matching than you can. So what about real estate brokerage? Well, this is actually an academic who got her PhD at U of A, Jane Saber, put together this model for real estate. And she identified the different areas of matching and bargaining. And her thought process is that everything's moving more from the matching over to the bargaining. And in fact, what she sees happening is that realtors are going to make a choice. They're either going to go on the matching side or on the bargaining side. So let me just show you a little video of, hopefully this will work, of somebody who is firmly on, oh, well, that's not good. Okay, let me just try something here. That's working. Anybody here use Mozilla? Firefox, Mozilla? The CEO of Firefox, Mozilla, is actually a Haskayne grad, so there you go. Well, it's not going to work. You're going to miss a lovely in-your-face YouTube ad, which you can look up, of the property guys, and I mean in your face. It would have scared the hell out of you. But they are very much they feel, we're going to get over and just stay on that matching side, on the left side. And their argument is that there is no value added on the bargaining side and that will die. And actually he says in this video that forget about realtors. In fact, he says, I guarantee you they will not exist in 10 years. I can't buy that argument. And then the other one I was going to show you, which we'll see if it works on this one, is a different model. So we clearly...
You're not quite as loud as you were before.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We see a clear distinction going between the mere postings, the property guys type model, and the other one I was going to show you is called Redfin. Redfin is like a corporate story. So the realtors, the agents get paid a salary. Imagine that. So they actually get a salary and their job is customer satisfaction. And they get bonuses based on customer satisfaction, not on number of deals that they do. And they have specializations, special areas, special parts of the contracting process. And so that's a corporate model. We did a little check with some of the senior people in the Calgary Real Estate Board. I could certainly use that.
Your battery's gone.
Oh, is that better? Okay, that's much. So what was interesting out of the senior realtors in Calgary is they have very strong feelings that in the future there'll be a wide diversity, which again fits into that model of the mere postings and the corporate model. They also have strong feelings that, and this was a little confusing, that the industry will be essentially the same in 2025. So a little bit of a contradiction going on there. Where they had their most diverse views, actually, and we're all over the map, was this idea that buyers do actually control the day, and so why not hook up with the buyers? They certainly don't all agree with that. And also that in the future, most realtors will be employed with multinational corporations, which is kind of the Redfin model. So people are not necessarily buying that. Okay, let's carry on. This is a model called transaction cost theory, and it studies whether or not you really need an intermediary. So the first question is, as was pointed out earlier, is a purchase a frequent event? If it is frequent, so if you're selling homes all the time, if you're building and selling homes, well, you'll do it yourself. You can do the sales yourself. But if it's infrequent, then we go to the next step. The next decision is a product unique or standard? Well, I think it was pointed out here that it's unique. If it was standard, you'd be able to just go to a supplier like Henry Ford and say, I'll take one of those, black preferably. But a house is unique, so you go to the next one. And this has come up as well. Is a performance uncertain? What if it fails? Well, if there's no big deal, if it doesn't work out, you just go buy a new one, then you'd buy it directly from a supplier. But in the case of a house, it's highly uncertain and the consequences are significant. So this model, which Oliver Williamson won a Nobel Prize for coming up with, says realtors will be around. The property guys are wrong. It makes sense that people will have agents to help them through the process because of all these factors. This is another theoretical perspective called the long tail. Is anybody here familiar with the long tail? Okay. So what the long tail says, this is the old Henry Ford model, which is keep your products pretty standard and go for high volume. So there isn't a lot of variety in products. In fact, Henry Ford's was just one line. They're all exactly the same. But then it expanded into maybe a Mercury, maybe a small Ford and a large Ford. Still, you try and keep it to a small number of models, and you go for the volume, and as was pointed out, you push your suppliers, and you get the good pricing on it. Now, the long tail says you focus on a large number of products with a low volume, and you still make a lot of money. And how that works is that, for instance, well, used to be newspapers would be very centralized, but now with blogs, you can get that information in a whole wide variety, and different people in here can read the information from different blogs. Doesn't add any more cost because the distribution doesn't rely on printing presses and so on and so forth. It's using technology. Well, here's an example that might be a little better. Blockbuster versus Netflix. Blockbuster was very focused on new hits and getting people to get those new hits on their way home from work. Netflix started a model that said, no, we're going to focus more on you getting a great movie. So they built, using technology and algorithm, and a peer-to-peer network that helped people get the right movies for themselves. So when President Reed Hastings says, the way he describes it is, before Netflix, people would take a movie home, and 1 out of 4 of them were, wow, that was fantastic. 1 out of 4 of them were, oh, that was horrible. I can't believe I just spent $4.99 on it. And 2 of them were, so-so. Now with the Netflix system, if you're in there and it's based on the movies that you've rented and reported high and what other people are feeding in, he's moved that needle to 3 out of 4 are successes. And the most important thing is that's using mostly old movies, like movies from the 70s, 80s, 90s. So the studios are saying, yahoo, we can stamp those on a CD for about 3.5 cents or on a DVD and fire it off. And it has expanded. They've moved into the long tail. So it actually wiped out Blockbuster, as you may know. They've gone under. Chapters versus Amazon. Amazon being able to sell, really, what do they care if you go on Amazon? What do they care if you buy a #1 best-selling book or number 500? They don't care. It's the same thing. They get it from the supplier and ship it out to you. Volume doesn't really help their business. Hit music versus iTunes. What does Steve Jobs care if you buy Beyonce or you buy, Joe from down the street, and you're maybe only one of 4 people who buy his song, it doesn't matter. It's still 99 cents. They have no added costs by using the long tail. Well, here's the interesting thing. When I started thinking about that, I thought, wow, actually real estate was probably the original long tail. And so there should be a beautiful marriage between technology and what the realtor does. We just have to find the right model. I think there's a perfect connection there. And in fact, there is a business model. There's a new book that focuses on how do you set up your business to take best advantage of the long tail. And interestingly, they have a focus on matchmaking in the center, which then caused me to think, well, maybe, you know, I said earlier, forget about the matchmaking. Well, maybe it should be part of the model. I'm a typical academic. I'm not going to give you an answer, but I'm going to throw out lots of different ideas. So the only thing is, now I've given you all this research and theory. Well, what do the people have to say? Okay, so first, let's start with the study that, the research that I did just earlier this month. We have about 240 brokers who responded. Average age participant was much older than this group. It was like 55. And that was supposed to be a joke. Average experience, about 20 years. Yeah, you guys don't count. 52% in their second career, which is probably typical in real estate. 76% were men. 68% from Alberta, 32% from BC, which I think adds to 100. Average firm size, about 43 employees. First question up there is, to meet market demands, will you consider adopting mere posting? We have 70% say unlikely or very unlikely. So I think we have a very strong statement there. The brokers are saying, well, I'm not getting into that. Those property guys, they can do whatever they want, but that's not part of where I'm going. Well, let's see some of the other things that they said. Disruptions will not impact fees. So they're saying that commissions will not go down, even though there are the in-your-face property guys type of people. Do you agree with that? No? Yeah, no? Well, this is the interesting thing. They also say, though, that their margins are going to get hammered. So what is that? 51% say it's likely or very likely that their margins are going to go down. Okay, so somebody reconcile that for me. Fees are staying the same, margins are getting thinner. How does that work? You have to deliver more. Exactly. And that is, in fact, there was consistency in the research. So the brokers said they are going to invest more in areas like getting new resources. Education is huge. Complementary services. Complementary services, think vis-a-vis Henry Ford and highways and gas stations. That might cause you to think in real estate, movers. A lot of realtors are already tied in with mortgaging, financing, lawyers, all the things that are part of buying a home.